Hello viewers, this is Tisha Deo taking you through the score guide 2024 of MEBU Examinations Consult, that is the mock assessment 2024 chemistry paper 1. Instructions to the candidates were given, and item number 1 section A was saying, after working the whole day in their garden, Mary and Annette complained of pain and headache. Mary decided to take tablets of Panadol, which were available in her drawer, and Annette took some juice extract from Aloe barbadensis Miller, that is aloe vera plant. After a few hours, Mary got relieved from the pain, but Annette claimed the pain was still on. Task. As a chemistry learner, you are told to explain the categories of products used by the two ladies. So when we look at this item number 1, is coming from the topic that is in book 4, and that is a chemical for consumers, and the subtopic there is drugs and the medicine. So you are told to categorize the above products. And now when you look at the two, Mary having got relieved from the pain, meaning Mary took the right drugs. Now, going back to the categories of drugs, we know that there are 3 major categories of the drugs or the medicine. In this case, that is the categories of the modern medicine. We have what we call the analgesic, which we call the pain reliever. Examples, we have the Panadol, we have the aspirin and the codeine. We also have the second one being the antibiotics, those which are used for stopping or slowing down the rate of the bacterial infections. An example can be maybe the penicillin and the streptomycin. Then you have the third categories of the modern medicine being the psychotherapeutic medicine, the ones which are used for curing mental illness. Now, as per the scenario here, we are looking at Panadol and aloe vera. Now, Mary having the pain relieved, meaning Mary used, of course, a modern medicine, which is an analgesic drug. Of course, when you look at Panadol, it's an example of an analgesic drug whose role is to relieve or stop pain, while Annette used a traditional medicine, which is an antibiotic. And of course, antibiotic, the role or the function is to slow down the rate of bacterial infection. So a person who writes that Mary used modern drug, which is a painkiller, while Annette used a traditional drug, which is a bacteria inhibitor or killer, in this case, gets all the scores. And then item 1 still, Roman number 2, saying, help Annette understand how the product works. In the previous video, we talked of those key information that the learner is supposed to know when answering item number 1 and item number 2. Now here they want you to go ahead and give the product or the function of the Panadol. Of course, Panadol works by blocking the chemical messengers in the brain that tell the body that you have pain. So a person who writes in that way gets the right scores. The role of the Panadol is to relieve pain in that case. Now, analgesic work by interfering the transmission of pain signals to the brain, thereby relieving the pain, that is, in general. So a person who gives that information also gets the right scores. Then coming to the antibiotics, of course, the role of the antibiotics is to slow down the rate of bacterial infections. And how? They work by killing the bacteria or inhibiting its growth, thereby treating the bacterial infections. So a person who gives that information, in that case, gets the right score. So when you talk of the functions of the two products in that case, or how they work, analgesic, the role is to relieve pain in general, while antibiotics, their role is to slow down the rate of bacterial infections. And going to the B part of that very scenario, they're saying you advise the two ladies on the challenges associated with the use of the products. Now, when advising, in this case, is more of now evaluating. Now, what you're supposed to go ahead and do, you're supposed to give, of course, the danger and then the risk, because when you're giving an advice, you give someone the dangers of taking the particular drug and the risk. You also go ahead and give the similarities of the two different categories and then the differences. And in this case, you are evaluating the product. So in this case, you're looking at the risk developing dependence and addiction, someone getting used to a particular drug. And this can be mitigated by reducing the use of the drug. And again, we have increased the risk of adverse effects such as constipation, nausea, and drowsiness. And this can be mitigated by taking the prescribed dose. And then on the evaluation, we said always you are supposed to talk about the similarities and the differences. So when you look at those two different products, both are used to treat illness. Of course, both have potential side effects. And those are some of the similarities of the two products. Coming to the difference, as earlier on stated, analgesic, their role is to relieve pain, while antibiotics is to treat bacterial infections. Then coming to item 2, as per this assessment paper, and it is saying John, a resident of Wakikola, a remote village in Bukwe district, is disturbed by frequent rains during a leaking house top. He is willing to work on his house without affecting the environment. He is aware that there are various materials on the hardware market for roofing his house. He also knows that in order for one to produce good quality roofing materials, he should select the right material with suitable qualities and properties. However, he is still confused with the choice of the materials to use and has approached you for advice. So we expect a learner in this case to identify the key information in the scenario. So you can see that the challenge here is choosing the quality materials for roofing. Now, it is all about material, which is a topic in Senior 1, second term. So the saying using your chemistry knowledge to explain the categories of materials. Now, when you're given the categories of material, we expect you, if possible, to first define the material. Then you give in line with the information given in the support material. So we know that there are two major categories of material. We have the synthetic material, or what that is the man-made material. And from the scenario, we can see we have the iron. We expect the learner to also talk of the natural material, of course, the ones which are made by God without man's intervention. We have the wood. Mainly we do get them from plants and animals, and sometimes we get them from, of course, the underground also, those minerals under the ground. So Roman number 2, the learners were tasked to explain the suitability of materials. And when we talk of the suitability of materials, we mean the properties that make them to be used for a particular purpose. Now we are looking at the iron. Of course, the iron is a very strong material and can withstand compressional forces. In other words, it has a very high tensile strength. It has a very bright appearance. It is durable and long-lasting if well maintained. It has high conductivity. Of course, it also has high melting point and therefore can resist fire. So when you talk of the suitability, we mean the properties of those materials. And then, of course, with wood, wood is ever readily available, so easy to get cheaply. It is strong and can support heavy load, light when dry, and so good for roofing. Easy to smoothen, to give nice appearance, and can be eaten by termites when not treated. So now, the advice, they're saying you advise John on the choice of material. So in general, when you talk of the choices of material, you are supposed to look at the uses. Of course, the choice of material for roofing depends on its purpose and the impact on the environment. So you have to go ahead and look at the uses of those different materials. And sometimes under this item, you can also be asked to give the side effects and the mitigation. So when you talk of the side effects, we mean the dangers. You look at, for example, we have the iron. In this case, still, of course, when you look at one of the dangers of iron, it depletes soil fertility. It makes soil to become very infertile when it accumulates into the soil. And of course, when you talk of the dangers, you have to go ahead and give the mitigation. Now, how do you mitigate this? This can be mitigated by recycling of these products or this material. Going to section B, part 1, of course, this area we always have the industrial processes. And the item number 3 is saying, in many industries, sodium hydroxide is used to make wood, pipe, and paper, textiles, soaps, and detergents, and as a drain cleaner. To ensure that sodium hydroxide is readily available and at a cheaper cost, one of the managers of a textile industry is planning to set up sodium hydroxide production plant. Unfortunately, the residents have raised concerns about its environmental effects and valuable land about to be taken by the investor. The support material has been given here. So the science club in your school is also wondering how the production process of sodium hydroxide will be carried out. So as a result, the chairperson has appointed you to make presentation to be published in one of the local newspapers. So from this information, you can see that the overall scenario is all about coming up with a plan for manufacture of sodium hydroxide. Now, what is needed from the learner? The learner is supposed to begin by stating the raw materials for the manufacture of sodium hydroxide. And here are some of the raw materials. In this case, we have the brine, of course, that is concentrated sodium chloride, the graphite and mercury, these are the electrodes. And now, after that, the learner goes ahead to give the process of production. So here we have the process of production of sodium hydroxide. After giving the process of production, of course, when giving the process of production, don't forget to talk about the vessel that is going to be used. And we also expect the learner to give the side effects of sodium hydroxide plant on the environment. And here are some of the side effects, and don't forget to also go ahead and talk about the mitigations. We have mercury poisoning. Of course, exposure to inhalation of mercury can result into damage to the nervous system, kidneys, liver, and immune system. And this may result into cancer and hence death. Now, this can be mitigated by posting hazard and warning information in the working area, communication on the health and safety hazards of mercury to potential exposed persons. So in this case, we expect the learner to give side effects together with their mitigations. So you can see here the very many side effects together with their mitigation. We're looking at air pollution by waste of the gas fumes. So the waste acidic gases fumes can cause acid rain, which leads to crumbling of buildings, bridges, lowering the soil pH, hence lowering crop productivity. And this can be mitigated by encouraging the production and use of renewable energy instead of fossil fuels, fitting scrubbers in exhaust pipes of machines, and neutralizing the acid gases. We also have land pollution due to oil spillage. And how do you mitigate that? Of course, this reduces soil fertility. So this can be mitigated by enforcing strict laws to protect the community and regular maintenance and monitoring of the equipments that are being used. We also have destruction of vegetation or cutting down of trees for construction place. Of course, where that production plant is supposed to be constructed, trees are supposed to be cut down, and that is, of course, destruction of vegetation. And how do we mitigate that? This can be mitigated by planting more trees that grow and mature faster. Now, we also have global warming due to emission of these gases like carbon dioxide, steam, and methane gases to the atmosphere. And of course, this results into change in the rainfall patterns. Now, how do we mitigate this? This can be mitigated by encouraging the production and use of renewable energy instead of fossil fuels. Now, the learner is supposed to also go ahead and talk about the social benefits of the production plant. Of course, source of employment, there's development of infrastructure like roads, which facilitate trades and improve income status, and that, of course, improving the standards of living. We have development of infrastructures like schools, access to better social services, so all those will be put into consideration. And item number 4, it was about saying that Grain Pulse Limited is one of the Uganda's leading phosphate fertilizer manufacturer. It uses sulfuric acid as the main raw material in a bid to cut the cost of the high revenue imposed on importing the seed. The management has constructed a production unit to set up sulfuric acid production plant with minimum environmental concerns. A certain village in Kasese district has been selected for the plant. However, some residents in the region claim that the plant will not benefit them at all. So this is the support material. The science club members in your school would like to know how the production process will be carried out. They are seeking for guidance prior to addressing the school assembly. As a chemistry learner make a write-up they will use when addressing the assembly. Now, when they talk of the write-up, as per the scenario here, they want you, of course, to talk about the production process, the side effects and mitigation, social benefits, and those are the key informations to be looked at. Now, we begin by looking at the raw material for production or manufacture of sulfuric acid, and those are some of the raw materials that are supposed to be used. And here is the production process for sulfuric acid. So we expect a learner to state all these informations, writing the well-balanced equation, stating the catalyst that's supposed to be used in this case, which is the vanadium 5 oxide catalyst. The temperature and the pressure supposed to be indicated all. Now after that, we expect the learner to go ahead and give the side effects of the production plant on the environment together with their mitigations. So here are some of the side effects together with their mitigations. We have air pollution by waste gases or fumes. This can be mitigated by encouraging the production and use of renewable energy instead of the fossil fuel. We have land pollution, we have destruction of vegetation, global warming. So we expect a learner to give a particular side effects or the danger and then its mitigation immediately. So in the write-up, we also expect the learner to talk about the social benefits or the importance of this production plant, of course, to the people within the area and the country at large. So we have employment opportunity, development of infrastructures, and many others. Those are under the industrial processes. Then part 2 is always from the natural resources, and item number 5 was saying Peter of Chitaragara village in Isingiro district can easily cross into Tanzania for a charcoal business. Due to increase in population of the district, many natural forests have been cleared to provide charcoal for use as a fuel, and natural swamps have been reclaimed to create space for settlement. These happenings have left the district officials wondering. As a result, the government, through the district officials, is planning to create awareness to the people in Isingiro district through sensitization workshops organized in different villages. The task: as a chemistry learner, prepare a short presentation that you will deliver during the workshop when invited. Now, in this case, in your write-up, we all expect the learner to talk about, to first identify the category of the natural resources with reasons and examples. As per the scenario, when you look at the scenario, we are looking at the natural forest to provide us with charcoal, and we have swamps. So you identify the natural resources first from the scenario. So we can see we have the natural forest here. Natural forest. We also have swamps. These are the natural resources you have to first identify before you begin talking about or writing or making your presentation. And of course, you also know that production of charcoal, there is also air which is required. So air has to also be indicated. And of course, we have the grasses as some of those resources. So we have to identify them. So we have two categories of the natural resources. We have the renewable natural resources, the ones that can be replaced when they are used up, which is air, the trees. Then we have, as per the scenario, then you have also the non-renewable resources, the ones that cannot be replaced. Of course, as per the scenario, when you look at the scenario, we can see that the ones that cannot be replaced may not be easily identified, but the ones which can be replaced, of course, you can see that we have the vegetations and we have the water, that is the swamp, in this scenario. But as well, we know that some of the natural resources that cannot be replaced includes we have the oil, the rocks and minerals, but as per this scenario, they were not indicated. Now, we expect the learner to also go ahead and look at the composition of the natural resources on the environment. And of course, we know that air contains nitrogen and oxygen gas, carbon dioxide, rare gas, and water vapor. Now, when you look at the swamp, that is water, water is made of hydrogen and oxygen. And then the trees contains chemical elements like carbon, nitrogen, and of course, we have also some elements of hydrogen in it. And now, when you go ahead and look at the impact of these natural resources in the environment, we expect Chelana to explain only one. In this case, when you look at air, of course, when the carbon dioxide levels in the air increase, being a greenhouse gas, it traps heat in the atmosphere, leading to global warming. So how do we mitigate that? We expected the learner to say that increased afforestation should be done to replace the cut trees which absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and this will reduce global warming. Then coming to the benefits, of course, we also expect the learner to talk about only one. We have air, taking air, of course, air contains carbon dioxide that facilitates photosynthesis in green plants. And of course, also, this very air can help us during photosynthesis. We know that carbon dioxide from air combines with water in the presence of sunlight that is trapped by the chlorophyll to form glucose, oxygen, and energy. So those are some of the social benefits of air. Then the last item under the natural resources tale we had was on this number 6 was saying Kagulo village in Bugende district is developing at a faster rate. Many of the recently existing farms and forests are now filled with buildings. Stone quarrying is the order of the day among most of the locals in the village. Recently, the wells have started drying up and yet the little water available is not fresh. The few residents that practice crop husbandry also say that the seasons have changed and this has caused famine in the area. All these happenings have left many of the residents wondering. A sensitization workshop is to be organized in the district by the government through National Environment Management Authority, that is NEMA. The task: as a chemistry learner, prepare a brief presentation you will deliver upon invitation. So when they talk of a very brief presentation, we expect the learner to identify the natural resources, categorize them with reasons and examples. We also expect the learner to give the composition of the natural resources, also giving us what we call the social benefits of the natural resources and some side impacts and mitigations of these resources on the environment. Now, as per the scenario, we expect the learner to identify these natural resources from this scenario. We can see we have stone quarrying here, the source of of course, minerals. We can as well see that we are talking about swamps. This is water. We also have the forest. This is the trees. We can see we have also, of course, the crops. Uh, of course, you also know that air is there in abundance. So those are some of the natural resources that we expect a learner to identify from the scenario. Those are some of the natural resources we expect a learner to identify from the scenario. After that, identification, now the learner should be in position of categorizing them. We have the the natural resources which are renewable and the ones which are non-renewable. So as per the scenario, so the according to the scenario back, we can see that we have the renewable natural resources of course, these are resources that cannot be replenished. In other words, they cannot get used up. So we have the air, water, and the trees. Because from the scenario, we are seeing that we are having uh, the forest, we have swamps, and these are some of the natural resources that cannot get used up. And then we also have the non-renewable resources, the ones which can get used up. We have the fossil fuels and the rocks. Of course, you can see we have stone quarrying, meaning we have the rocks. Now, the composition of the natural resources are here. Of course, you have air contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, rare gas, water vapor, and water contains hydrogen and oxygen atoms. In fossil fuels, these are, of course, organic compounds. You have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And the rocks contain elements such as limestone, iron, gold, copper, and many others. So the impact of these resources on on the environment we are looking at air. When carbon dioxide level in the air increase, being a greenhouse gas, it traps heat in the atmosphere, leading to global warming. And how do you mitigate this? Of course, there should be increase in afforestation to replace the cut trees, which absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to reduce on the global warming rate. So we expect a learner to give those information, of course, someone side effect and its mitigation, and to enable him or her get all the required scores. Thank you so much. It has been Teacher Deo Gracias taking you through this. We meet again next time when we shall be handling other areas. But don't forget to subscribe to this mighty channel of ours, that is GVN Academy, and turn on the notification button to always get updated with every post of ours. Thank you.